So after our story of Avram's early childhood where he was in the cave and he came out and saw the experience of the sun and the moon, Abram made his way home. And he found his way back into his house of his father and mother, Terah and Amasloi bas Karnavai. And he was growing up in a home. He was a very inquisitive child, asking questions, curious. What's the purpose of everything? What's the meaning? And his father was quite a powerful and big man in the empire, city-state of Nimrod. And Abram's father even had an idol-making shop where they would make all types of idols for any type of worship that you were looking for. If you needed money, they had the right idol for you. You're looking for long life or children, we had every remedy and solution in that little store. Well, one day, Abram must have been a young teenager, and his father turns to him and says, "Listen, I have to go away for the day. Would you mind running the shop? You've been pretty good at it." And so Abram says, "Sure, Dad, I'll take care of it." And that day in the shop, as people came in, he would ask them, "What are you looking for? What do you think you're going to find in these idols?" And the first person, would begin to say, "Well, I'm looking for long life, and I want to, find an idol that will give me that energy to overcome the slow demise of my life. I've already, gone over the hill, and I want to live forever." And Abram looked at him and said, "Oh, well, maybe an idol that we made in the last week will help you." And the guy gives him a look, and Abram says, "I mean, really? An idol that we just made in the last week is going to give you long life? What do you think?" And from those simple questions, he began to get deeper and ask people about their thoughts and beliefs. And as you can imagine, in an idol shop, asking these types of questions slowly pushed them further and further away from buying. And he didn't make a lot of sales for idols on that day. But at the end of the day, something interesting happened. An older woman came in, and she had a plate filled with a bunch of foodstuffs, different foods that she had collected that day. And she turns to Avram and she says, "Oh, hi Avram, your father knows that I do this quite often, but I can't afford to buy my own idol. But I'm bringing in a plate of foods that I eat, and I give of my own foods to these idols. That way they should recognize me. And even though I can't have one in my own home because I can't afford it, but I can leave it here with you." And Avram gives her a look, and he also starts asking some questions. And she looks at Avram and says, "Avram, you're a cutie. I'm not the brightest woman. I don't know about the understandings of all the philosophies and theologies. Do me a favor. Don't talk to me about it. Just give my plate to the idols." And so Avram says, "Okay." And she walks out. And Avram thinks to himself, what am I going to do? I'm just going to give this sacrifice of her food? She needs the food. What am I doing? And so he has a funny idea. And he takes a hammer and he walks around and he smashes all the little idols in the room. And he goes to that biggest idol and he takes the hammer and puts it in his hand and takes the plate of food and puts it right in front of the idol, locks the shop, and goes home. The next morning, Terah has come back from his business trip, and Terah's banging on the door. "Avram, get out of bed!" And Avram jumps up. "Dad, what's going on?" "Avram, what happened to the shop? What's going on?" And Avram says, What happened? Were we robbed?" And Terah laughs. "No, we weren't robbed. Somebody smashed it." And he goes, "Smashed?" He says, "Come, let's go." And Avram pulls his pants on and throws a shirt on. They run to the shop. And Avram makes believe as if he's seeing it all for the first time. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, it looks like this woman brought the food. Maybe the big idol smashed all the other idols." And Terah looks at Avram. And Terah's face is turning purple and goes, "Avram, what am I, an idiot? These idols can't smash each other. They can't beat each other. What are you thinking?" And Avram looks at him and goes, "Oh, so you don't believe in it either?" And Terah looks at him, furious, but also understanding. And Avram looks at his dad, and they both walk away. And from this point, Avram, he sees that his father doesn't really believe in it. And as a true searcher does, a true searcher always starts where he is. And after clarifying to himself that his father really didn't believe in all this stuff, he began to go out of the house and he began to search. Avram would go to the taverns and the bars, and he'd go in and like, hey, can I buy you a drink? He'd buy people drinks and then say, can I ask you a question? And he would begin to question and ask, what is the purpose of life? What are we doing here? What is God? Is God just the most powerful force out there? Or is there something more? Is there purpose and meaning? And Abram, became pretty well known. Everybody likes a guy who's going to buy drinks. And every time Brother Abram would come to a bar or a tavern, everybody would welcome him with open arms, knowing that it meant a free drink, but maybe also a bit of a pointed and deep discussion. And he would buy rounds on the house and go, come on guys, what are we doing here? Now this little insubordination or mini rebellion of theology began to make waves. And people began asking the questions, what are we doing here? What is the purpose of life? They remembered the story of Noah. There even were some people that remembered the story of Adam, Harishon, the first man, and the belief in God. And everybody knew that from the family of Shem, there were those that worshiped the one God all the way in Jerusalem. And they began to ask questions, searching, thinking. And one day Nimrod calls Terah and Abram in, and he looks at Terah and he goes, Terah, what's with your boy? And Terah says, he's a searcher. He's trying to understand what we're doing here, And Nimrod looks at Abram and says, Abram, what's going on? You don't like it? You're growing up? You have food to eat every night. You have a bed to sleep in. What's your problem? And Abram looks at Nimrod and he says, I don't believe that this God idea, we worship you, but are you really God? Do you really give life? Or do you just threaten us with the ability to take away our lives? And Nimrod looks at him and says, oh, you want a debate? We'll have a debate. In 10 days' time, we'll have a debate in the fiery furnace. We'll see you there. We'll have a full discussion. And Terah looks at Abram and he goes, Abram, what are you doing to me? You're blowing up my gig over here. And Avram's like, Dad, what do you want from me? I'm looking for life. I'm looking for the purpose. You never even told me where you came from. What are we doing here? You never told me about your parents and grandparents. I want to know, what is the purpose of life? And so 10 days go by quite quickly. And this time, it's not just a few hundred people or a few thousand people that come to gather by the Ur Kasdim, by this big fiery furnace in this huge stadium. This time it's thousands. Many people have already had talks with Abram, and it had made quite a lot of waves in the community. And they all gather, people from nearby cities even show up, and they come to this stadium that Nimrod had built with the fiery furnace there. And Abram is actually brought out with his hands tied behind his back, ropes around them, and he's brought in front of Nimrod. And Nimrod stands up and he makes a big announcement. He says, as everybody knows, Terah is my right-hand man, and his son has questions. And I'll tell you what, we're going to give him a chance to accept the power of the gods of the world. He has to accept. Maybe he wants to accept the power of the winds, the power of the rains, the power of the volcanoes, or the power of thunder and lightning. But he will accept our gods as the truth. And he will accept me, that I am the God over this wonderful kingdom. I can control and I can kill, and every one of you bow down to me. And everybody hears this and rah, rah. And Abram stands up and he looks at Nimrod and he says, Nimrod, what do you want? You want me to bow down to one force? There's always another force that tempers it. You want me to bow down to the forces of the rains? But the wind can come and blow that away. You want me to bow down to the winds? The winds can't move mountains. You want me to bow down to the mountains? Mountains are just inanimate objects. What do you want? What do you want me to accept? And Nimrod screams and he says, I want you to accept that there's a power that's bigger than you, that I can kill you in any moment, and that means that you have to do what I say. And Avram stood up and he said, no, that's not true. You can put a gun to my head, you can throw me into a fiery furnace, and yes, you will kill me. But that doesn't mean that that is the reason why I live. And even if someone does give in and they accept what you're saying, but that doesn't give them the purpose and the reason for living. You're not the source of life. Nimrod, and everybody here who's listening, it might be that I'll die today, but you'll go home and you'll remember this moment. You'll remember how Nimrod tried to make the claim that a power that can control you is God. And you'll remember my voice that says there must be something more. There must be a reason of what we're living for. There must be something that's important enough that this world was created for. And I might die today, but one of you, or maybe one of your kids, or maybe one of your grandkids will take this torch. They'll pick it up and they'll continue this search for what we're really living for. At that moment, Nimrod screams and they say, throw him in the fire. And they pick Abram up and they throw him straight into the fire. And what do you know? For the first time in human history, God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who created the sun and the moon, the master of all forces of this world, Hashem himself made himself known and intervened in the actions of man. And he saved Abram from that fire. And while the ropes around his hands and legs burned right off, Avram's body was fine. And Abram was walking around. And the people in the audience didn't know what to make of it. There's Abram, he's still walking around in the fire. And Nimrod, furious, turns and looks at the next brother. And he says, Haran, do you believe? Are you also with Abram? And Haran stands up and he calls, he goes, Abram, are you alive in there? And Abram, shocked as everyone else, he turns back and he says, yeah, the fire is not burning me. And Haran says, I too am with Abram. And Nimrod screams, throw him in the fire. And they throw Haran in the fire. And unlike Abram, Haran gets burnt, incinerated in a moment. And Amaslai bas Karnavai, Abram and Haran's mother, burst into tears, screaming and crying. Terah is looking around, not sure what to do. His one son is there alive and the other son just died. And Nimrod screams and looks at Nachar, the third son, and says, what about you? And Nachar is like terrified and he goes, I have nothing to do with any of this. And Nimrod looks at Abram and he says, Abram, get out of there, come here right now. And Abram says, no way, you're going to kill me. I'm not coming out of the fire. And Terah sees that what's going on and he quickly jumps in and he looks at Nimrod. He says, Nimrod, please, I don't know what just happened. I don't know how my son is alive, but let me take him and we'll leave. We'll leave your city-state. I'll leave my business behind. I'll leave my money behind. Let us leave. Let us go. And Nimrod also doesn't know what to do. And he looks, he goes, this minute. Grab them and go. And Terah calls out to Abram. He says, Abram, come on out. We're out of here. And Abram comes out, and you can imagine it's still sad and painful. They just lost Haran. Amaslai is crying. Nachar is in shock. And they run out. They run back to their home. They grab their bags. We're leaving. All the slaves, all the servants are looking around. What's going on? And we're leaving. And Terah turns to his family and says, I want you to know, I'm from the family of Shem, from the family of Aver, and we have a tradition about the one true God. And the God that just saved you, Abram, he is the true God of the world. He is the creator. Let's go. We're going home. We're going back to the land of Canaan, the land of our forefathers, the land which will one day be Eretz Yisrael. And they immediately set out on their journey, traveling all the way through the Fertile Crescent. They're all the way down by the Persian Gulf in the valley of Shinar, and they travel all the way up. But instead of making it all the way back to Eretz Canaan, to Eretz Yisrael, where Shem and Aver were, they stop in Aram Naharaim, where they have other family. And there in the city of Haran, after that big journey, Terah says, let's just settle down here for a little bit. Let's catch our breath. Let's recover. And they settle down. Terah and Amaslai bas Karnavai, Abram and his brother Nachar. Haran even had 2 kids, 2 daughters, Sarah, and who at that time was known as Yiska, and a woman named Milcah. And Abram ends up marrying his niece, Sarah, and Nachar marries the other niece, Milcah. And Nachar and Milcah begin to settle down, and they begin to build their family there. And Abram and Sarah continue their journey. They continue their search. And after reflecting on this incredible story, how Avram was saved, Avram says, we have to continue this journey. And this is the beginning of Parshas Lecha, where Hashem tells Avram, go, continue to leave your birthplace, continue to leave your upbringing, go out, continue the journey. Your father Terah didn't complete the tshuva process, he didn't complete the return. He went on his own way for most of his life, and then after the big fight with Nimrod, he left, but he didn't bring it all the way home. Avram, this journey is yours. You started the search, and you must continue it. And you and I and all of us, we're still here, the children of Avram. We're the children of Avram Avinu, who set the path for us, the path of searching authentically, being real, questioning, and not accepting simple answers, being willing to be curious and ask those uncomfortable questions. And we're carrying that tradition with us.